Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today, we're interviewing Tim Roberts. And we're going to kick off with one of his tracks called Calm Down. Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing well. Calm down. Why calm down? It's Friday here in Australia and I'm pumped. It's only 6 a.m. so I tell you what, thank you to coffee. Yeah, happy days. Hope you're all doing well. This is How to App on iOS. My name's Jade Star. Every week on this show, we interview somebody from the music community, somebody from YouTube or around Facebook groups or whatever, because it's all about you. That's what this show is. It's all about we all rise Together. And that was today's guest, Tim Roberts, otherwise known as Texas Jackdaw, who you may have first discovered. This is how I discovered Tim was on the Metalhead Hippie Show. Boom. So, yeah, and I just fell in love with that song. That song just got in my head and was an earworm and just ate my brain like a zombie. And now I'm a massive fan of all of Tim's work. I just love that song. I'm sure you're going to love all the rest of his music. So speaking of his music, before we jump in, because I like being transparent, all right? So when I do these interviews, I hate interviews that don't have music on them, you know? There's nothing worse than watching an interview with somebody and you can't hear their music. But sometimes music is copyrighted or published, so I'll get a copyright claim. So I'm just being straight up with you guys. So if today you are enjoying the show and you would like to super chat, there is no obligation, remember that. The money from today's interview will go to me, but then after that, any streams afterwards, all the money will go to the man we are interviewing, the Texas Jackdaw. So I'm just being upfront there with you. Anyway, without further ado, as I said, I came across this man's music on the Metalhead Hippies show. Clearly a veteran musician who is just knows his chops, knows his shit, and is a really, really, really decent guy. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tim Roberts. How are you, my friend?
Hey everybody. Hey Jade, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good, very good. Sorry, I'm all excited.
So early.
I know. It's hard to keep up the enthusiasm at 6 a.m.
That's some good coffee you got there.
I think it's the cup that I'm drinking from. Thanks, Russ, 8889. It's the magic cup. So how have you been? Everything well?
Good, well. After the 4 months of ear problems I had,
Well, all right.
hearing issues, so
Well, let's jump.
I fully recovered.
I want to jump straight into that then, because you know this show has no holds barred kind of thing. Tell us what's been going on. What's been going on with your hearing?
Yeah, I developed an inner ear infection that ended up in both ears, and took finding our fourth ENT specialist to determine the problem and resolve the issues. But it was 4 months. I couldn't mix. I couldn't record. I couldn't do anything musically except hang around Metalhead Hippie Show and chat with Mark Tanner. That was pretty much it musically.
Hang around with other musos.
The ears are back, so I'm busy as hell working.
That's awesome. So did that have like an effect on you? I mean, you know, as musos, and I'm sure there's many of them here which are going to say hello to the chat, and I'm a muso as well. Did that have what kind of effect did that have on your mental well-being? Because, you know, music, man, it's in our blood.
It was complete depression. One of the joys that we have, you know, as musicians and songwriters and recordists, is listening to music. And I couldn't hear anything over probably 2K, maybe 4K. So it was just, you know, I couldn't listen to anything in stereo. It was just like having earplugs in, and it would sometimes shift back and forth. So it was just miserable. I was pretty depressed, but feeling so much better now. So.
That's really good. That's to come out of the other side. That's super, because were you able to even? I know this is. Were you able to write anything? Because even though and not being able to hear, sometimes depression and all that does derive some really good stuff musically. So did anything, even just lyrics, nothing came?
Down at the time, I was in a dark place. I have so much I can pull from that time now, but at the time it was literally just I was just treading water.
Yeah.
Trying not to bring my wife down, because it was just, it was hard for her because I couldn't hear her talk. And plus, you know, with the pandemic and the masks, when we did go out to get groceries or whatever, I couldn't understand anybody, because so much I learned of our typical communication skills. There's a certain amount of lip reading that happens.
Yeah.
So it was just, I felt isolated.
Yeah, and the pandemic's proven as well so many challenges on top. So, there's people financially who are fucked up, and people who, not seeing loved ones, and I think we forget that it's these little things that we're all going through that pile on top of this. So it's not always the same case. Some people might be okay financially during this stuff. Some people might live in a house full of friends, or so. Something like that on top, it just, look, and I hope there's some really good music that comes out of it from this, because normally those dark places do bring some good stuff, and you write some amazing music, so
I appreciate it.
I really hope that's to come. Speaking of which, music, I'm going to ask the first question I ask everybody. What does music actually mean to you? It's loaded.
That's a good question. What did that guy say in that Almost Famous? Music is life. No, I don't know. You could probably ask a couple of my ex-wives what it meant to them and get a probably more accurate answer. It was accused of having music as a mistress. It's just I've been a musician since I was a child, and I've been in a band since I was 14. It's just I don't know. It's the way I paint with words, And I don't know. I don't know what music means. It means a lot.
How do you think you'd cope without it? There you go. There's another.
Well, I had 4 months of that, so I didn't cope very well.
Yeah. All right. I already asked that question in a way, didn't I? That's not like me. So do you remember the music that was played in your house when you were young, when you were running around, playing around in the mud? As Hippie would say, being a dick. Do you remember the music that your family would play? And has it had an effect on you? And who are some of those artists?
Oh, it would be mainly Tijuana Brass. Herb Alpert and Tijuana Brass was my father. He had every record of theirs. Joni Mitchell, the Carpenters, and then later I found out my dad was a big Beatle fan, and that was pretty cool.
So,
but pretty much jazz, fusion jazz, whatever that was back in the day, and of course gospel music from my mother's side. So.
And do you think that music has had an effect on the music that you write today?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was also playing bass for my church at 14 in the choir and all the services. So, Southern Methodist Church. So I was raised with all those old gospel songs, plus we watched Hee Haw religiously, and I grew to hate country music. Now I'm writing country music too, so I'm definitely pulling from that.
Yeah.
And there's always some kind of jazz element to even my rock productions. I like to just kind of hit a color chord that makes someone go, "What did he just do? What was that?" And then I do it twice so that I show it wasn't a mistake.
I always say, when you're going to do something, do it at least 3 times. Because the first time you'll fuck it up. The second time you'll do it with somebody who fucks it up. By the third time you'll know what the fuck you're doing. And then you can decide if you like it or not. So.
Yeah, and if you make a mistake, make it loud.
Yeah, the louder the better. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mistakes make you better, man. That is just the way it is. So... do you recall the first album that you actually, or cassette or album? I mean, we've both been around long enough to remember what those things are. Do you remember what the first one was that you were given and the first one you bought with your own money?
Oh, good. I know the second question. My brother was really into Led Zeppelin, so the first album I was given was from him, and it was I don't remember the name of the album. It's the one with the little kids in the river. And then the first album I bought with my own money was a 45 of Argent, Hold Your Head Up.
What was it on? Cassette or vinyl?
It was a 45 vinyl disc.
Nice.
You know, a record.
Yeah.
And I played on a little plastic record player that my mom got for me at Kmart.
Man, have you seen the new record players? I don't know if anyone else in the chat. I will say hello to everybody in the chat shortly. Have you seen the new record players where they're like it's like a little box that sits on top of the record and drives over the top, like a bus.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my god, man, it's bizarre. You actually put, because vinyl's, you know, coming back in such a big way. You put the vinyl on your table and you drop this thing down, and it just drives along the top around the grooves, like a tram. It's,
I bet that would keep it from jumping out of the, you know, the threads. If Hippie went boom, and it was on a record, it would jump right up.
Yeah, just don't do it with Hippie around. You'll be absolutely fine. And speaking of, let's say hello to the folks who are here, because there are plenty of them. So let me get my scrolling wheel on and go up to the top. And we've got, who's here? Paying to Get is here. SM Borthwick, Russ 8889. Who else? Joe Glenn, good to see you. Thomas Christ, Nina in the Dynamics, Ed B, Patrick Chandler, Joshua Good, Dave Fox. Wow, there are many of you here. Kim Harden Hudson, Sean Chandler, both the Chandler brothers are here. After I had the Chandler brothers on, we discussed having you on the show immediately afterwards. And because I said I was such a fan, and who knew? I mean, a couple of weeks later, here you are. And we were talking about collaboration. So while I'm saying hello, they said they haven't done a collaboration, but if there was anyone they would do a collaboration, it would be with you. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, we actually started a dialogue on that. So
yes, it's happening.
I don't know if we're going to write a song together or we're going to take a previous Chandler Brothers song or one of my songs and just rip it apart and rewrite it. I don't know, but it'd be fun.
That is the shit. You see, folks?
Because everything they play, everything I've seen from them just sounds like, this sounds arrogant, and I don't mean it to be, but it sounds like something I would have written, you know?
Yeah. I
think we obviously have the same influences.
There's definitely a connection between your music. That's and as soon as they said, because we had an off the record after the interview chat, so I'm really glad that's going to happen. I'm sure everybody here is going to be stoked to know that's going to happen. Possibilities are endless. Yes, says Patrick. Rhodey's Jam Crew is here as well. Si, it's always effing good to see you. Let me keep going through the list. Brad Example. Who else? I know Metalhead Hippies here. Boom to you. Boom, 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 boom. If you don't know who Metalhead Hippie is, search him up and send your music to him, because the man does a hell of a lot for the community, a hell of a lot for me, a hell of a lot for Tim, and a hell of a lot for the people who are here in the chat. Thank you, Hippie. Boom. Black Covers, I can see you here as well. I need my magic mirror, but I don't have that set up. Let's see. Auntie G, hello to you. Mark Tanner, my friend. Mark Tanner is here. Good to see you. Tell us a little bit of your friendship with Mark Tanner.
Yeah, it was odd. Met him through Metalhead Hippie. Just struck up a conversation and chat, and I don't know how it. I think we became friends on Facebook, and then the wheels came off, and now we use FaceTime Messenger. The video chat on Messenger, and now it's just 3 or 4 times a week we talk for about 4 hours. Yeah, it's really good when you meet somebody through these communities who is a like-minded soul. Because good friends these days are really hard to find, and I know from being on Hippie Show with you that having somebody like that's just really ace. I'm lucky I have a few people like that. I'm going to read through a few more names, then we'll jump into the hard-hitting questions. Thank you very much, Metalhead Hippie, for the kind super chat. It says, boom, Tim's the man. Rock on, bro. Boom. Who else do I have here? I've probably missed a whole bunch of people. Gary Hubbs is here.
Thomas, I said Thomas Christ. Adam Burse is here as well. There's so many of you. I thank you all for being here. The Dog PA. Let's see. If I've missed you, I will circle back because we've got plenty of time. And Darren Dunaluk I see as well. But we'll circle back and get to you guys. So I'll do my best not to miss you. Let's move on. I want to know, you mentioned gospel music. So did you go through school playing gospel music? Was this a thing that you did when you was young as well? Is that how you introduced to music, or was it in the family, or how did you start playing? I think I'm trying to say.
My father had a 12-string acoustic guitar, taught me, I think, the Wildwood Flower, which was a finger-picking thing, or a flat-picking thing. And then in was it 7th grade, I got into the orchestra, the band at my school, and wanted to be a drummer. And all drum slots were taken, so I ended up being assigned the trumpet, the cornet. And then at 8th grade, we got a new band instructor who came in who was a real jazz guy, and he wanted to put a stage band together, a jazz band together. And he said, I need someone that can play electric bass. And I'm like, I can play the guitar, so I can play the bass. It says, less strings. It'll be easy.
Bass players are cursing you right now.
So he of course it's not. So, but I had to learn bass clef. He actually loaned me his bass. The instructor did, and so I got into that. Which once my church found out that I was a bass player in a jazz band, they recruited me to the youth group, who had for the music worship thing. So I was 13 or 14 when that was happening. And then we had a guy named Pat Smith came through. He was a contemporary Christian singer-songwriter. And he came through, performed at our church, fell in love with our church, and stayed at our church, and then recruited me into his band called Ecclesia from the Ecclesiastes. And that was a contemporary Christian band. And then every summer we would go touring all the way out to the East Coast from Texas and back, staying in people's homes, playing churches and revivals and things like that. So that's how I got into that. And then from there, I studied jazz in college, North Texas State University, theory, harmony, improv, all those things. And then I was in a Christian band called The Basics, and we were kind of like a Mr. style Christian band. And I quit. I dropped out of school in my 5th year of college. Took 5 years. And because we were getting signed and talking to this Refuge Records company, and we ended up touring until we all got kind of mishandled by the Christian music industry. So we all just beelined away from that. I haven't looked back since.
That's interesting, because I was just going to go down that path. All right. So firstly, regardless of my beliefs or anything like that, so obviously, your faith and all that plays a lot of heavy role in your life, and it's clearly had a massive impact in your music. So you just said there with the Christian music industry. I'm always keen to know more about that, because it seems to be, I don't know, from your experience, I'm just interested to ask your experience from being in it. It seems to be there's a lot of money in that industry pushed towards Christian music. So, and it seems like it's sometimes a little bit separate from the rest of the music industry. Is that the case? Yeah. How does it kind of... Give us your insight on how that works, because I know naught about it.
Yeah, granted, I left. You have to remember, put this in context, is that when my band, The Basics, was kind of blowing up in our area and getting on these tours, this is around the time of the Tammy Faye Bakers and the the Swaggarts and the TV evangelists that were just corrupt.
Yeah, yeah.
Preaching this prosperity BS and living in mansions. And so what happened to us is that we would become a big draw, and we would, we have to rent, we have to provide our own PA and lights. They'd book us for several of these big mega churches would book us for these giant youth camps and things like that. And, we spent a lot of money on renting extra gear to fulfill the show. And under the agreement, the verbal, this time agreement that we were going to get paid X amount, and then they would come up and take a offering from these kids or at youth camp. They don't have any money.
Yeah.
And they, try to pay us $156 when we've got $2,000 rental. This started happening, so we got contracts drawn up, and my experiences is that I found at that time in that industry, this is the 80s, mid 80s, it was just very corrupt, and we were poorly treated. So I don't know what it's like today. I know it's, my favorite artist probably still of all time is Phil Keaggy, who's a Christian. He's a monster guitar player. Check him out, please, everybody. There's videos of him all over, but he's, I still am inspired by some of that music. I'm just not involved with it.
I wouldn't expect to, I was that. I would expect if it was corrupt, then just like every industry, like every form of the music industry, it's probably still going to be corrupt now, because there is that aspect. And I've been signed to labels before and signed on the dotted line when I was young, and watched that shit go, and don't own that shit anymore. You learn these things, and these days you read things a little bit more carefully. But it's a good thing to make that mistake, because you never make it again, trust me. As I say on my channel, mistakes make you better, and I swear to God, if you ever sign something and you lose the rights to something you've written, it hurts. It hurts a lot. You'll never make that again. Yeah, look, and the Christian music industry is big bucks, man. Here in Australia, we have a thing called Hillsong, which is predominantly an organisation where it's music-based church, which goes out to mostly kids, and they pack these places out, and they are making serious bread through this. And, I mean, the other thing is, I think organisations like Hillsong have realised this is the way to connect with people for faith, because it's music, man. That's the way you connect. And it baffles, whenever you go into from my little time of going into a church, whenever you go into a church and there's music, it's a fucking good experience.
Yeah, well, it can be. Especially if you go into some of those gospel churches around Memphis and stuff, and New Orleans, that'll change your life just by the sheer power of true Delta gospel. Yeah, I get chills just thinking about it. There's some fantastic music in there.
So you start gigging. You're experiencing the rigors of being in a band and not making the money you want and having to hire all this stuff. Does this set in any disillusion from an early age? Like, you're starting to think, is this what I want to do? Did that ever cross your mind?
Well, I knew that. I remember seeing a rerun of the Beatles on Ed Sullivan when I was probably about 7 years old. And I saw them getting off the airplane in New York, and all the girls rushing at them, screaming through the concerts. And I remember thinking, that's what I'm going to do. I want to do that. Of course, it's, you get a little bit of success early on, and you think, this game is easy. No, it's not.
Yes.
Most of the people I have played with throughout my life are no longer playing music,
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to it till I'm in the ground. So.
Oh yeah, exactly the same here. I remember I had 3 years away from it to transition to come out as who I was, thinking who would buy music from a tranny, right? You know, I'm sure there's trans people who've just heard me use that word and will cancel me saying it's a slur word, but whatever. But yeah, that's what I thought. You know, who would buy music from somebody like me? Because 20 years ago, who would? It was a different world even 20 years ago. But when I came back and made music, people still got into it because music cuts through the bullshit, I think.
It does.
Thank you very much, Cy Effin, for the super chat. That was very kind of you. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a little break for a second, and we're going to play another one of your tracks. And I've got 4 here I'm going to play today, and I'm just going to choose them at my random because I can. So we'll be back in a second, folks, and we'll call out a few more names and catch up with you all. This is Prozac and Lilacs. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this song before I play it?
Yeah, I wrote this in a band called Bittersweet, and it's about a fucked up relationship. And so basically, I left her for Prozac and Lilacs was my term of sex and drugs, which it's all metaphorical.
Nice.
No, I didn't do the drugs.
All right, guys, we'll be.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It is what it is, man. All right, we're going to bang this out. We'll see you back really shortly. So enjoy Prozac and Lilacs. See you shortly.
Desperate times call for desperate attitudes. Depression starts to take its toll. You say the fire's dying. I take a pill to keep me lying in the arms that hold me like the blues. Did you really want to know the reason that I left you in this place? You said I lost all my desire. I was just tired of the race. You say I hold it all together well, but I think I'm acting pretty strange. You've got my motor running. I take a pill to keep me gunning. Prozac and Lilacs to your place. Did you really want to know the reason that I left you in that state? You said I lost all my desire. I was just tired of the race. Contained aggression keeps me high and dry. A chain reaction fills my blood. With a need that keeps me humping, I got a medicated monkey jumping from my head to my heart for you. Did you really want to know the reason I left you in this state? You said I lost all my desire. I was just tired of
There we go. Let me bring out this music under here. So that was Prozac and Lilacs, folks. Another killer song. What I want to talk about next is, of course, let me bring you back volume up, vocals. Because when I first heard your music, the thing that really like grabbed me by the neck and choked me out, like Andre the Giant against Hulk Hogan back in WrestleMania 1, was your vocals, man. They're so inviting, so warm, so thick. And you've mentioned at the beginning of this, you're a musician, you know, and you play all these instruments. I know that. What was it about? When did you know you could sing as well?
Well, I sing backup. I was a backup singer for most of my early career. I learned to sing that I could sing, that I had a natural ear for harmony when I would listen to the Beatle records and just pick out, you know, if it was just John and Paul, I found myself finding, you know, if they're singing the first and third, then I would do the fifth, just instinctively, so I could hear harmony. And then got into that band Ecclesia and learned this is, you know, the Eagles are huge at that time, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and I learned the art of the oohs and the ahs. And every band I was in, I was a background singer, and I might get to sing one solo, you know, one song in a show. And then at some point, after I left the Christian music industry and put my first secular band together, with my own music, and we auditioned, I don't know, 4 or 5 singers over 6 or 7 months, and my band finally just said, you know, the fuck are you doing? Sing your damn songs. And I'm like, I'm not a lead singer. And that was in 1996. So I've been a lead singer, well, except for when I was in a band called Dirty Helen, and that was a really successful band. We won a national battle of the bands for the Hard Rock Cafe in 2002, I think. Out of 144 bands, we won the whole thing, the big kit and caboodle, the Hard Rock Cafe tour, sponsorships from Jack Daniels and Sam Adams, and we signed a new contract, and with an entrepreneur that I knew, built a label around us and built a $250,000 recording studio. And we said we didn't want the studio, we wanted to be on the road. In that band, I was a backup singer, but because we had such a great lead vocalist and a frontman and a fantastic songwriter. But even in that, you know, I would sing a couple songs in a show, 2 or 3 songs. But after, and here I go again. I left that band, worked for, I was in Tiffany Shea's band, and she's been on my channel for 2 years. Then went to Dirty Helen, and then did my own band, Tim Roberts Band, which I've got some video on my channel on that too. We got to actually record, have Chuck Rainey, the famous, one of the most recorded bass players in history, sit in and record on that album for me. And then I joined this band Bentley out of Austin, and it was just a monster 5-piece band with basically one killer frontman that could sing like Chris Cornell, and the 2 guitar players, myself and the other guitar player, were lead singers. Brad, the bass player, who's in my band Story Now, he was a lead singer in his band. So it's basically 4 lead singers with 1 real lead singer. It was just, we were kind of like the Little River Band. I mean, it was just harmonies everywhere. And then after that, Featherhead, back to being a solo artist and in a band, and I'm a singer again. That was a long way around the block. Sorry.
No, it's interesting with backup vocalists. I've been a front person for all of my life, and I've had a lot of interaction with hired session singers, backup singers and stuff, been around the traps, and I mean, you would know exactly the same. There's an astonishing amount of amazing backup vocalists out there who work as session artists and make, well, I don't know if they do now because of the way the world's changed, but used to make a fairly good bit of coin rolling in and doing oohs and ahs, baby. there's a lot of money in oohs and ahs.
There is.
And
John Oates will tell you that.
yeah. And, you know, you watch a lot of these TV shows where they're, you know, like The Voice or something like that, you know, where they... Is that the one where they spin around in the chairs and try and... whatever that show is. I don't watch a lot of those shows. But a lot of people who enter those shows, especially I think The Voice, a lot of them are backup singers who've backed up for huge international acts. And they're finally going, oh, I might give this, like, front person singing a go. And when you hear them, you're just like, holy shit, your voice is amazing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money to be made. Have you ever done any session work like that as a backup vocalist? Because your voice is so strong.
And I've always been called, I have a vanilla voice. And Stacy calls it a chameleon. I don't know what I do or how I do it, but I can adjust my vibrato to whoever I'm singing with. I can mimic their accent and their enunciations. So I always considered myself a guitar player at first, but I was asked this question a couple of years ago, and if I appeared on other albums, and I went through all of my recollections, and I've done a number of I don't know, probably 10 or 12 appearances on albums, and only one was guitar. The rest were all backing vocals.
Yeah.
So I still do a considerable amount of ghost tracking. I don't really want to get into that term, but I still do a lot of that.
There you go, folks. So if you want to hire Tim Roberts as your backup vocalist, pretty penny, folks. Pretty penny.
Yeah, PayPal.
Yeah, do it. You too can have that massive, strong voice behind your music. Hey, thank you, Adam Burst.
$25 per track.
Yeah. We need a business card.
And I'll cut as many as you want.
Thank you, Adam Burst, for the kind super chat. Say hello to a few other people I've missed. Welton Kinder. Who else do I see come in? Hambo Hounzo. Rick Lisk is here as well. There's so many more. I thank you all for being here today. You guys all rock. Where are we? I'll catch up eventually. I'll get there. So all of these bands that you're playing with. So, have you cut albums with these, with a lot of these other? So you mentioned, your own band. Do you have other material that is available on, I guess, CD or vinyl or online?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. I've got my record that's on that solo album. This Human Condition is on iTunes and
Spotify and everything.
And then we never published it. We never distributed Featherhead. I don't know why. I'm sure there's a ton of Bentley music out there. It's spelled Bentli. Brandon Bentley out of Austin, fantastic songwriter, fantastic vocalist. We got to actually do a track that was featured in a Boggy Creek Sasquatch movie. We got the first opening 5 minutes of the movie, and we were covering a song from somebody, can't remember how. But yeah, Bentley should be on iTunes and everywhere. The Basics, I can share some links. Gary Alexander has got a library on his YouTube channel. I'm just trying to think. There is music out there. Dirty Ellen probably did the most records, but because of the legal issues, which unfortunately it's just nowhere to be found. I still have them, and I share them to Facebook occasionally.
Yep. So I just had up your music just then. Now I've just lost it. It was professional of me. So there it is. Let's bring it back up onto the screen. So there's The Human Condition. This was released in 2000. when was it recorded? When was this album recorded?
That was recorded probably. They were a series of demos actually that I was recording here at the house. All but a few of them were cut in my house, and to be suggestions for Bentley to record, and we just didn't go with them. So I said they were started recording, I guess, around 2010 as demos, and then I realized I had so many songs I needed to put them out. So I just kind of threw it together, got it mastered, sent it out.
When I was searching for material, I did a search. So I've put links to the album in the description, folks, so you can get to it like Spotify, all that stuff. It's all in one link for Songwhip. When I was searching, let me go full screen here. I saw these other artists down here named Tim Roberts, and I'm thinking, hang on, that doesn't look like Tim.
Yeah,
that's definitely not Tim. And I'm thinking, well, maybe, hang on, when was this released? 2011. Maybe there was a period of time where he had really short hair and wore an old cap like that. I don't know.
No.
So I went through your Facebook just to make sure. And I'm like looking at all your pictures going, no, there's definitely no photos of him wearing that silly hat. So that's definitely not him.
No. If I did, it would have been backwards with a bandana underneath it or something.
Yeah. It's interesting how, and you can actually fix that and get your name off there, but maybe we'll talk about that. But look, it's a great album, folks. So make sure you go and download this. It's a really killer album. I have just had it on repeat over and over and over again. So I want to talk about publishing, because I think it's really cool to have you on the show to talk about this, because not many people understand publishing, and it's something that you have done. So a lot of us record our music these days, and we use something like DistroKid or CD Baby. We release our music, and you get the choice to add YouTube copyright, content ID kind of thing, and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people don't understand publishing as a little bit different than just recording a song and putting content ID. Tell us the process for you to how you've published your songs, just so people get a bit of an understanding what publishing is, if you can.
Yeah, well, that's back in during the pandemic, and the initial lockdowns and everything. I was preparing to release another solo album. I had already cut like 26 songs. I needed to try to figure out how to release these over time. I was contacted by a friend who was a big player in this area and moved to Nashville. He just happened to come across, he said I was always on his radar, and he came across me playing that green guitar, just jamming on that video of me just jamming with that Harley Benton guitar that I just picked up. And then he went a little bit deeper, saw my other music, and saw that I was doing all the parts. And so he called me up and says, "Hey, are you doing all this stuff?" I said, "Yeah." So he says, "You need to think about getting into film and television publishing." I'm like, "Well, that sounds cool, but I don't know how to do that."
Yeah.
And he signed to this publisher in Hollywood. And he was just so gracious. He says, I think you're the right fit for this. So he actually walked me through the door, and into this, this new career. I asked, "How do I thank you?" He said, "Pay it forward. When you find someone that can do exactly what we do, make sure that they're not a dick, and make sure that they're honest and a good person, and try to walk them through the door." And so I signed with EA, Expressive Artists in Hollywood. And so basically what I do is that I just write, record, mix, master my songs, and I submit them to my publisher via Dropbox. We can talk about the app later. And then they will send me contracts, and so this only happened late last year.
Right.
So so far I think I've submitted about either 27 or 30 songs, and nothing has been placed yet. So we're still. They said that there's like an 18-month window of when you get something, into a publisher before they can place it. And also, songs might be submitted for a pilot episode. These comedies and dramas and whatever. There's constantly new pilots that don't get picked up. So it's kind of like the more songs I can get out there into the publisher, the more opportunities I might get something placed. And then, as I understand it, when something gets placed into a film or a television that becomes very popular, Hollywood is a very small town.
Yep. And
other producers like, wait, I want this guy in this production, and that's what I'm hoping for. All I can say is that my experience with Expressive Artists has been nothing but gold, just shining. Just wonderful people, and it just gave my whole life a facelift. You know what I mean? A sense of purpose now, instead of just recording songs that sit on my DAW, or toss them out to Facebook or YouTube. They're actually have potential to enrich my wife's and our lives.
So
and
basic
a little notoriety wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, of course. So basically, the idea of, from my knowledge of it, is just so people get an understanding, because there's a lot of people who don't understand the difference between like releasing an album, signing a deal with a record label, where there's a whole different ways around it. You can actually sign with a label, and they will pay for the recording, and then you have to pay them back from the money you make. There are other deals you can get where they'll take ownership of your stuff if you don't read your contract, and you can get screwed really bad. There are other deals you can get through record labels where you've already recorded the album and you're providing them a made album that you've paid for yourself, and then they go ahead and pay for the costs of producing the CDs and all that stuff. But publishing, from my experience, and I'm sure you can elaborate, is like paying a manager or a promoter, a personal promoter that has your stuff and has the ability to send that out to, as you said, television, movie, all these kind of things. So it's like, your music's being managed instead of just, Am I kind of right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. They have the ability to, it's usually music supervisors on film and television that choose, the music for whatever the project is. They got the ability and the relationships being there in Hollywood to just make a call saying, hey, I've got this song for you. Will you listen to it? And I really can't get into the specifics of my agreement.
Of course,
them, but you've got copywriting is the old pie piece. You've got your songwriting pie, half of the pie, and you've got the publishing.
Yep.
So of course, when you go with the publisher, they're going to take the publishing, and you get the songwriting or a good portion of it. So.
Yeah, you're essentially paying somebody to manage your music, and that's pretty much it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So hopefully some people have walked away with a little bit of understanding. And I'll tell you what, folks, if you want to find out more, go to Wikipedia and look up publishing. Trust me, it'll help you out. All these things are available to look up.
Donald Passman has a book called Everything You Want to Know About the Publishing, about the music industry. I think it's on its ninth pressing of it. It's worth buying. Go to Amazon and buy that book if you want to learn about how to make money in the music business.
Absolutely. I'll tell you another book that's worth reading. It's called How to Be a Free-Range Human. It'll help you understand how to decide to create your own path in life, your own business, and whatever you want, and say, fuck you to the rest of the world and make your own path. Very interesting. Just ignore the chapter on SEOs because you really don't need them. It's just good for, you can take it on. Hippie's left me a message. I had to scroll back for this. I have to read it out. Tell Tim to show me the SG that he's going to give me. It's awesome. He's got it ready. It's right there. Can you believe it? Are you happy, Hippie? Boom.
I gotta
Boom.
get the yeah, there it is.
There you go, Hippie.
I can't figure out which direction I'm going on this thing. There we go.
Hippie's drooling right now. You happy, Hippie?
I don't know why he wants that so bad, but no.
You know what Hippie's like? He gets his mind set on something.
He's got a white SG. So what does he need in another one?
He wants that one, man. He wants that one. Like, you know what it's like. All right, come on. Let's be honest. You've got a lot of guitars, and look, if you're a guitarist, I'm a guitarist. I have 7 guitars. I would love to have heaps more. I want all the guitars. What is it about guitars? And I see this on Metalhead Hippie Show. You've all got shitloads of guitars. I don't know how you have time to play them all. How do you deal? Because we talk a lot on this program about gas and ass gas, app acquisition syndrome and gear acquisition syndrome. How do you confront gear acquisition syndrome? Because it's a thing, man. You know, every guitar we see, we want.
There's always room for one more. Yeah.
Don't say.
Well, for me, to be honest with you, I never set out to buy a lot of guitars. I always look at them as tools, and I like to have 2 of every type of guitar back when I was touring. So if I had a custom shop Strat or something, I had to have another Strat that felt exactly like it. 2 SGs, 2 of everything. That was redundant, and that was what you had to do when you toured. And now I look at them as sonically. What do I have? What do I do not have? What am I missing? I need a baritone. I need a good solid body with P90s, and I'm trying to fill gaps sonically. I don't have any desire to buy any more SGs or any more Strats or any more Tellys. I got 2 of each. I'm good. So now I'm in the market for a Les Paul custom, not custom, standard 60s era. My wife gave me the permission to buy one now. Buy my dream flame top on for my birthday last week.
That's as long as you've got permission. That's all that matters. See, my wallet dictates the permission for me, and it's never kind. So.
Well, no, her wallet dictates the permission. She's the breadwinner.
Well,
she's an air traffic controller.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
That's really interesting because, like, what's that film with John Cusack? Oh, God.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
Right, I was going to say, is that...
The personalities, dead nuts.
Right, because, that film comes off as, like, saying that you got to be crazy to do that job. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you've got to be that aggressive.
Right.
She likes to say it's like a video game. You're playing a video game, but you cannot lose. So it's high stress.
Wow.
And everybody in there is an alpha. Just like that movie. What was it called? Someone in the chat probably has it.
Well, I got to meet Stacey. Is that your wife's name?
Yeah.
So very briefly, I heard her voice. So, but probably after the show, she'll probably come in. I'll get an official hello or something. So, wow, that's incredible. I can't even decide what I'm going to have for breakfast each day. I don't know how she does that. Man,
yeah, so she supports me wonderfully. She really believes that I can do this and carve out some kind of niche, maybe in the publishing industry. I'm not looking to be an artist so much anymore. Although, because I met Metalhead Hippie and Jeff and seeing all the content, I'm just doing more content.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying that.
thanks to Mark Turner, Pushing Tin is that film. I love that film. I think it's a
Pushing
brilliant
Tin,
film.
yes.
Yeah, I saw that on like a cable at some ridiculous hour and was like, what's this crap? I've never heard of this, and just watched it. It was like, it's one of my favourite films. Like, it just came from nowhere, blindsided me. It's funny when you find those films. I knew nothing about air traffic control, but was absolutely intrigued afterwards by it. And now every time I jump on a plane, I do sit there and look over it, looking for the like tower going, wow, I wonder what's going on there. I'll bet a lot of coffee.
Yeah, and she doesn't work in the tower. She works at a place called Fort Worth Center. So the tower has, I can't believe we're going to talk about air traffic control on a music show, but
we go everywhere here.
yeah. So the tower controls a bubble, I don't know, 25 miles or something, a circle around the tower, and then they pass them off to cross country or en route.
Right.
And there are like highways in the sky, and they like she handles from like I don't know, I want to say Amarillo to Little Rock, Memphis, all that airspace. And there are, like I said, kind of highways in the sky until there's weather and storms come in, and there's like a 5-mile gap, and all the planes need to get through that gap. That's why they get paid well, to manage the separation.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much it.
So I want to touch on too, because I see behind you your computer with all your like doors in the background there. I'm assuming, because you've been doing music just as long as I have, and I'm assuming that you've been through the old school days of recording in studios and paying the dollars and dealing with the hangers-on coming in and sitting around and having a guitarist that might fall asleep there and just the drama that does go on in recording studios. How have you found the move from recording studios to having a home studio these days? What are the benefits and the negatives, I guess, for both?
Yeah, I really can't. I would, if you'd asked me this maybe 5 years ago, I would have said the negative is not. I adore going to 2-inch tape, recording analog. I adore that. But the expense is just outrageous. I miss the sound, but the saturation and tape plugins are getting so good these days. So
yeah,
now I would say I don't miss it at all. This Human Condition record would have cost me that you showed earlier.
Yep.
That would have cost, if I would have went into one of the studios that I worked at as a client, and those would have cost me probably between $12,000 and $13,000, not including mixing, just for the tracking, and then it probably cost me another, I don't know, $1,000 to $3,000 to get it mixed,
and then mastering on top too.
Yeah, and so having this ability is just, I don't even look back anymore. I can't believe I can do all of this here in this house.
Yeah. Look, these days, the last recording studio I went into, because back in the day, the early days, I've been playing music for 35 years, kind of a bit more longer than that. I remember recording studios weren't as sterile as they seem to be these days. There's a lot of sterility in a lot of today's modern studios. Everything's so ultra clean. I remember recording and having an engineer who had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth and kept forgetting to ash it, so he was always covered in ash. The place kind of smelt a little bit weird. And these days you go into
I
these...
miss those.
Yeah, man. So do I miss that big time. These days you go into these places that got wood polished boards and a pool table and just all these mod cons, and you're like, wow, I'm too scared to touch anything. Back in the older days, you'd just fall asleep on the couch with your shoes off and be drinking beer everywhere.
Exactly.
So I think with the invention, well, not the invention, just the ability to record at home, you can do that if you want, and smoke in your house if you want, and do all that kind of stuff. I don't miss it. I tell you what, I don't miss the money. Having to pay the money for a recording studio.
Yeah.
As you said, it's super expensive. And you get what you pay for.
sometimes you don't. Sometimes you think you're paying for a really good engineer, and they're basically, you find out 2 days into the tracking that it's not even the engineer, the house engineer, it's an apprentice or something. And you're trying to teach him how to use a compressor, and then you cancel that session and leave. But yeah.
So, do you have any advice for if somebody does want to go into a recording studio, what to look for an engineer? And how to go about finding out if they're going to suit you? Yeah,
most commercial studios will have a list of the engineers that are working on. They're all contractors, subcontractors, and you can request an engineer, but depending on their schedule. But if you go to the websites, most recording studios will show, their engineers and their repertoire. Go through, listen to those records, and find out how this guy works. That's what I would do. And then just make sure they've got, it helps to know what kind of gear you like, what kind of mics you like. You can always judge a commercial studio by their mic locker.
Yep.
And their outboard gear. But I don't know. I have no desire to even go back into a recording studio anymore.
Yeah, the last time I went into one, I actually paid the engineer just to go in and meet him and play him the music that I wanted to record, just to sit down and hang out. So I just paid him just for an hour just to go and hang with him. And I didn't end up using him. It would have worked out to be around $2,000 per song. That was the price we'd come to, which is about an average cost for a good quality recording. But what I got from that, and for the money I paid for an hour, I don't know, it was $150 or something, just to have a meeting. I got out of that. He listened to my music and went, yeah, you should pull out a lot of this stuff. Just pull all this stuff out and give it a bit more room. Yeah. And that was way more valuable than anything else, because then I went away and paid for some recording time for our drummer, just to get the drum tracks, and then brought it home, put it in my... And it really helped me pull stuff out, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't teach, that less is more. You can fill up a song with heaps, but remember at the end to be critical and pull stuff out, because that's where your song's going to shine. How do you go about recording a song in your studio there? Do you have a method of setting everything up and then recording and then mixing? And you want to run us through some of that maybe?
I do. I'd like to address something real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Here's one of the best things I don't want to be negative on commercial studios. Sorry if I offended any of you out there about that. But one of the things I would highly, highly recommend, if you're in the market for a high-end microphone, Telefunken U67, whatever. If you're in the market for, a high-end microphone, it would behoove you to contact your local commercial studio, pay for 1 hour, and ask them to set up all the microphones that you're considering, go in, sing on each one. You want flat response and everything, take that back home with you, and then, assess that in your DAW. You pay $100. It's better than paying $10,000 for a microphone that sounds like shit for your voice. Yeah. Because everybody else says it's the best mic.
Yeah.
So I would always suggest that.
It's true, isn't it? Because we tend to watch a lot of YouTube videos these days on mic reviews and gear reviews. And I think people tend to forget that it's got to suit your voice. Like, you can watch every review on the planet, but if you go out and buy it and your voice doesn't resonate with the electronics in that microphone, you're fucked. It's the same with headphones too. I've been talking about this.
Exactly.
I've been having a lot of... I know I'm going to get some new headphones soon, and everybody's sitting there going, get these ones, get these ones, get these ones. And I keep saying, look, the sound doesn't matter to me. You don't understand. I've actually got to go into a shop and put them on my head, because they've got to fit my big Dumbo ears. That's the most important thing. And you can sell them till the cows come home. If they don't fit my ears, fail.
Yeah.
It's important to understand how your voice works with a microphone, folks. Definitely. So what are you using to record? What DAW are you using on your setup there?
Well, I started in Pro Tools, and then they came out, I don't know how many years ago, they came out with that stupid subscription business plan. And I have a friend, Sterling, on drop. For whatever reason, I can't remember his last name, but he was the engineer and producer for Pantera, Damage Plan. And so I called him up and said, what's going on? What would you suggest? And he said, go Logic Pro. So I bought Logic Pro at 10, I don't know how many years ago, 2010, 2011. And I haven't looked back. I love it. And I use the Universal Audio Apollo interface. And I just got these new speakers, these Cali Audios LP6s. I love them. They're flat. Music does not sound good through them. So I had those KRKs, and it sounded so good in here, and I would play it somewhere else, and the mix would change.
Yeah.
These, you can hear the mistakes. It's like those Yamaha the NS10s with the white cones that they were in every studio in the world. They didn't use them because they sounded good. They used them because they were honest and they sounded like shit.
Exactly.
But if you could make it sound good in there, it sounded good everywhere. So.
Yeah, it's the old car stereo thing, isn't it? You know, you play music on your monitors and it's got to be flat, and then take it out to your car stereo and bung it in there. And if it sounds good in your car stereo and your speakers, you're good to go.
Yeah, and now I'm learning, to use this, because even though it's stereo, you're almost getting a mono, and you can hear phasing issues on a phone too.
Definitely. I'm going to play another track, so we'll give you a break to have a drink of water, and I'll have one too. And we are going to play now, so Lost in Translation. You want to tell us a little bit about this before I bang it on?
Yeah, I actually saw that movie Sid and Nancy with...
Great movie.
It was Gary Oldman. You saw the movie, yeah. And so how Nancy had overdosed and was dead, and he didn't even know it because he was high. That's what this song is about. She said, let's, get high. She said, we're high, let's go for stone, It just talks about the tragic overdose.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you back here in a minute, folks. So enjoy this. This is Tim Roberts with Lost in Translation. Boom.
Wake and bake the day. It's a miracle, she'd say. Shadows creeping, ever deepening. She said, we're high, let's go for stone. But I don't know why I left her alone. Lost. The delicate down beneath her. Called me to go deeper into the raging storm inside her. guide her. She said, we're high, let's go for stone. But I don't know why I left her alone, standing in the hall so lonely. Kaleidoscope was spinning. The Ferris wheel was winning. Scar for every bad decision. Said we're high, let's go for stone. But I don't know why I left her alone, standing in the hall so lonely. Standing in the hall so lonely. Lost in translation.
That's how you produce a song. Wow, absolutely, so well produced. And as you can see, people in the chat absolutely agree with me. So beautifully produced. If you're not inspired to make music after hearing that song, I don't know what's going to inspire you, folks, because that is some beautiful songwriting. Yeah, utterly wonderful stuff. I don't know how you get such a great sound. I can understand why you're publishing this stuff, because it's a very good idea to do so, because I can see people picking that up and using that because it is so beautifully written. Have you considered writing for people?
I have, and I have done that before. I will always consider that, yeah.
Because, you know, throughout the ages of rock and roll, pop music and all that stuff, some of the greats, all of their best songs are written by other people. And there's quite a collective of songwriters out there who you will never know of and never know their names, and they have written many of today's biggest songs. And there's a lot of money in that industry. I could see with the way you write your chords and the way you put together your songs, that it's something that I would think. How much would you charge to write a song for somebody? I'm interested to know off the top of your head.
Yeah, I don't know. What I've done in the past is like I said, the Human Condition CD, those were demos that I had written for Brandon Bentley to sing for the band Bentley. They were, you know, I had to, once I realized that we weren't going to use the songs and I had to do them. He's a much higher singer. I had to re-record them at a lower key. But I started doing that, and it would. I have no idea. The plan was before we got signed to the publisher in Hollywood is that when Stacy retires in a couple of years from the ATC, we were going to move to Nashville, and I was going to do my best to try to write country music for other people. But we're keeping our options open, so I wouldn't know what to charge.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Money's always a hard thing around music, I find. People ask you to do things and you know them, and it's always a bit squirmy to me.
I'm kind of the old school. As long as I get the publishing, as long as I get the songwriting, they can have the publishing, you know?
Yep.
I'm from the old school where bands and musicians played on everybody's. They played on each other's albums. They wrote songs for this band wrote songs. There was no money that changed hands. It was on, because the money now in the music industry is separated into two ways. Either you tour and you sell merchandise and you get the gate, or you get publishing. You don't make any money off of CDs. You don't make any money off of streams. So those are the two ways to make money. So I would allow anybody, if it's not allocated to expressive artists, if I have a song that I haven't published, I would allow, if they're a good artist, them to record my song, as long as we get a contract that I'll get the songwriting. So
are you saying
I'm open for business, people. Give me a holla.
Holla, holla, holla. Are you saying there's no money in streaming? Come on, look, Spotify. Look, you get 1,000 streams, they might flick you 0.003 cents. You know, you're saying you can't live off that stuff.
Well, if Peter Frampton can't live off of it, I certainly can't.
Yeah, it's pretty dreary, isn't it? I always just blame Lars Ulrich for it. If it wasn't for Lars Ulrich complaining about Napster, that wouldn't have led us down the path to Apple creating iTunes, then creating the streaming services, then Spotify and everything after. It's all Lars Ulrich's fault. So Lars, fuck you. Go and play some tennis, mate. Let's talk about iOS, because I know. Oh my camera! Oh, there you go. You're back. I know that you do have an iPad. You have an iPad Pro, and you probably don't necessarily use it the same way I do to record music. But how do you use iOS? Do you use it as a complementary thing, or how do you use it?
Well, interesting story is that my wife Stacy is the tech guru. Right. She's got to have the newest iPhone and the newest gadgets. And I don't know, 15 years ago, she got an iPad. And I thought, well, that's cool. So she got me, usually I get her hand-me-downs. And I thought, this would be cool. I can do Facebook and watch maybe YouTube. And it was just an accessory. And then Dropbox. So how do I use it now? I do all of my video editing in LumaFusion on my iPad, and because I don't want to pay Adobe's subscription, I bought Affinity Photo, which gives me enough control to do what I need to do for the thumbnails. So I do all my video editing there on the iOS. I do.
There's LumaFusion. For those of you who don't know LumaFusion, I've been doing a whole bunch of shows on it the last 2 weeks. Look, it's an incredible app. I don't know how they've got so much into an iPad, and you can use it on your iPhone as well. So if you haven't looked into LumaFusion, folks, seriously have a look at it. If you want to
it's like $25, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. And if you want to know how it works, I've got a whole bunch of. There's a LumaFusion playlist on my channel that runs through green screen stuff, your everything that I can, and there's going to be a whole heap more shows. So, and a lot of people use it these days to put together their music videos, because it's easy as pie, and it's all on your iPad. Can't praise it enough. And the thing is, what's good about it, I think too, Tim, is that as we keep going on with the iPads getting better, I think LumaFusion is just going to get better and better and better, and eventually you're going to be able to add 12 video tracks on an iPad. It's unthinkable,
right?
You know.
Yeah.
When the iPad came out, everybody was like, "It's just a big iPhone, man, and it's only good because you can watch movies on it." And I was like, "Nah, you got it wrong, dicks. We're going to be using this to make music, man, and video, and here we are." So you use Dropbox as well. Let me bring up Dropbox.
Yeah, that's an integral part of my mix, of my mixing setup. Is that once I bounce a mix down, usually to an MP3, I'll copy it to my Dropbox folder, my whatever my mixes folder, and then I can immediately go outside and I can listen to it with my earpod in or on a mobile device, and I can get a picture of what it sounds like out of the studio, and I'll jump back and forth, 4 or 5 times to make some tweaks. And then I can go back at any time and just listen to those, everything that I do, like the music memos, and if I record a song idea on or I write a song and sing it to my phone, I immediately upload it to Dropbox, so I have access to it wherever I'm at on my cell phone and on the iPad. So I love that. And plus, that's what I use to transfer big files to my publisher and to some producers that I work with in LA and Nashville. Everything is Dropbox.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah, look, I'm sure everybody will agree, though. I wish they'd give us a little bit more space for free. I already have so many other sharing things that I pay subscriptions for. I can't afford another one.
Yeah.
Subscriptions, man.
I had to pay for the Pro bundle. Yeah.
Yeah, subscriptions are the bane of hell for everybody at the moment. They're juggling them. What are your thoughts on the subscription? You mentioned about Pro Tools earlier. What are your thoughts on subscription models, the way we're heading with all of this stuff?
I don't like them. Like, you're a LumaFusion person, the story blocks and things like that. I would rather pay $250 when I'm done, than it's just, I don't like subscription models. I don't like that at all. I like to own my software.
Yeah, what I wish Apple would do, because they've got the power to be the leaders in this. Apple like to do things like, well, we're going to lead the way and take away your headphone jack. And everybody poo-poos it and go, you're not taking a headphone jack. And then 2 years later, nobody has headphone jacks. It's ridiculous. But what I would love to see Apple do with subscriptions is create like a one universal thing. So anything you subscribe to during with your iTunes account, it all comes out on the same date. They magically put it into a one date so you can organize it that way. I don't mind paying certain subscriptions for things, but it's the deal that they all come out during the month at different times, that you've constantly got to be thinking ahead going, all right, I've got to leave this money here for the end of the month, and midway through the month, this $18 comes out, this $13. If you knew when it would all come out at once, it still sucks, subscriptions, but it would take away some of that stress, because nobody has all the money in the world. That's my take on it. Are there any other apps that you use on your iPhone to complement your creativity or your workflow?
Yeah, I use the Notes app. I have just Apple Notes.
Damn straight.
I that's where I do all my songwriting. In fact I used to they're over there somewhere. I was a journalist, not a journalist. I was a journal writer. I always had a journal, pocket journal. And for decades, maybe not decades, about 15 years, I would write in my journal. And I'm an artist, so I'd sketch. And I would go to nightclubs and sit in the back with my whiskey or nurse a beer and just write lyrics. Of course, the iPad had the notes function, and now I can organize all my lyrics, and they're instantly shared to my computers and my phones. So I love that. And music memos for singing, capturing ideas really quickly. And probably the biggest thing that I use for performance is OnSong. It allows me to put all the lyrics of all the cover songs I know, or I do, and all of my originals. And it has one library We have iPad stands on our, clips on our mic stands, and I can organize our sets, and I just have to flip the page to page, and it's got a blackout. You can do a blackout where it's black with white, so it's not reflecting on you. That's a fantastic app too. I don't use any of all that stuff. I just keep it for the notes, just for the lyrics. And you can even set it to scroll. You can set the time and length of the song, hit the button, and you've got a teleprompter.
Yeah, that's sick. I didn't know anything about this, and I see it's got a price tag of Australian $55.99. But our dollar's worth shit here, so everything's more expensive here. But what I might do is reach out to the developer and see if they'll send me a code so I can do a show on this, because this could be quite handy for a lot of people. But I agree with you on the Notes app. I use that every single day, and I think people don't realize how flexible the Notes app actually is. I mean, when you look here, you can draw with your pencil, you can do notation, add graphics to it. It's a really in-depth app, and it's absolutely free on your iOS device. So for free, it's pretty damn good. But this On Song looks really cool. So thank you for pointing that out. I might reach out to the developer and see if I can scam a copy like usual.
I bet you could, because as I understand, it's a pretty small outfit, and their biggest audience, I think, is churches and praise and worship.
Right.
Because it's got all that Bluetooth functionality, and you could, if you've got multiple people on a stage, in a worship band or even in a rock band that have iPads, you can beam out, the set list to everybody.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So is there anything else before we jump over to whatever we're going to wrap up with? Any other apps you can think of? If there isn't, that's
not
cool.
Really. I'm just, obviously YouTube. I wouldn't have found you without YouTube, and I never watched YouTube on my computer. So I'm an iPad guy, and YouTube is my thing.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't live without YouTube. I don't watch any television. YouTube is my daily thing. I just sit there and have my subscriptions and go through my daily dose of crap that I watch, from spider breeding videos, snake breeding videos, to music. Like, my taste in videos is out there. It's a funny how YouTube has changed the world, hasn't it? It's an amazing thing. I remember when it first started, it was just like, I've had a YouTube account for years, but it hasn't been until the last few years I've actually started using it, which is mind-blowing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had opened mine in 2006, and I probably posted 3 or 4 videos in 10 years, and then I had a couple. I would post my stuff from my band live performances, but I wouldn't make them public, just so the band could see the cell phone footage. And then a couple of years ago, we got a pandemic, and it's everything.
Yeah, damn straight. They changed everything. I'm going to say hello to a few more people I may have missed. Just Preston Smith, absolutely. Ed B, Shake Your Guitar Tutorials. Let me see. I saw Hetriani in there, so yeah. Let's bring back the screen here. Who else did I see? There's so many. Ian Luckett's here as well. God, there's so many of you that I've missed. If I haven't said your name, type it in now so I can see you pop up. That's the best way to get me to give you a shout, because I hate missing people, but I want to always focus on my guest, because you are the most important person of the day. Darren Anderson. Hello, Darren Anderson. Thank you for leaving a comment at the bottom there so I could see you. That makes life easy. So many great people here. Set up by Marshall. Hello, Guzzo of Oz.
Hey, Marshall.
All amazing. Looking through the list of people here, it's a cavalcade of fantastic artists as well. So not only do I get the chance to sit here and have someone like you on, and so many other. I think this is interview number 44 or 43. I've had so many. Dean Thomas is here as well. But looking at the chat, there's so many talented people who are sitting in the chat that I get to pick from and eventually drag onto this show as well. So you could be next, folks. Epiphonium as well. thank you all for being here and supporting the channel. So SM Borthwick, hello. We are getting at the end. We're virtually at the end now. So, and I know there's so much more we could talk about, but what I do want to encourage you guys to all do is check the links. Head over, follow Tim on Reverb Nation, Facebook, on YouTube. Download his album, stream his album, send some money his way that way. Support his music because it's sick. And I don't even need to say that. You've heard it today. If you haven't heard it before, I'm sure you're a fan like I am right now. So I want to thank you for coming on. I've got one more question, the question I ask everybody, and let's do it now. It's my favorite question. If someone was considering becoming creative, when would you say was the best time to do so?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Absolutely.
No, start now. I mean, don't wait. Write something down. Make yourself a list of things to do to be creative. Carve out time.
Absolutely. If you're in a plane, a train, an automobile, you're in hospital, you're on a beach, you have the technology in your hand these days. It's not just a tracking device that's following you around everywhere you go. It's a creation machine.
It is.
It's funny. Who would have thought that we got to a world where I remember getting my first mobile phone. It was about, I don't know, it's about that big. And all it did was barely take phone calls.
Right.
And now...
It cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah, like my first dumb phone back then, and it was huge. You couldn't put it in a pocket. You couldn't even fit it in a bag. It was so big. It cost like $1,200, and you could do nothing with it. And these days we have, for $1,200, technology that's even... It shits all over the technology to put a man on the moon. How the hell does that happen?
I was going to say, we've got more power in our pocket than NASA has.
Yeah, I know.
Amazing.
It truly...
And we've got more power here than Abbey Road.
Yeah. And so, and it says, do it now, because like there is no better time than to be creative. You have all the tools in front of you to do it. And clearly there's a lot of people doing that. And we have such wonderful communities here. Like Pete Johns is here. Hello to Pete Johns. I missed you there. Who does Your Music Live. You've got Metalhead Hippie, who plays everybody's music. You've got these communities that are sharing all of our music. How has... this will be my final question before we play a song, because I think it's important to acknowledge this man. How helpful has it been to you with your music since you've met Jeff, since you've met Metalhead Hippie?
I just wish I had found him earlier in the pandemic and the lockdown. He's provided a sense of community. I found one of my best friends of my life, through the channel. I love connecting with people. I love getting in the chat. It's just a sense of community, but it's also it's an encouragement. He lights a fire under my ass to do more. I need to get more videos done. I need to get more songs out. And the truth is I wouldn't be so motivated if it weren't for Jeff and this community. So, boom.
Yep, he lights a fire under his ass. That's because he's sitting on it for 6 hours straight per show. That poor ass of hippies. All right, we are at the end of the show. Thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with me. I really appreciate having you giving me this time.
Thank you, Jade. It was such an honor to be here. I'm such a big fan. When I first got on Metalhead Hippie, you would pop in and out, and people would like, "Oh, it was Jade. She's awesome," So you were kind of this shining beacon when I came in there of this mysterious, super YouTuber. So I'm honored to be here.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. You know, you just do what you do, man. And you know, I'm ever so grateful for all the support. Hippie plays my music, and I may not be in the chat all the time, but I've normally got it on in the background listening because I'm doing other things. So, and we have odd times here in Australia when shows are on. So, I just want to thank everybody again for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel as always. You guys rock. Without you being here, I wouldn't exist. So, and I wouldn't get a chance to showcase so many amazing artists from this great community and beyond. And look, just keep making music, everybody, because you never know when your number's going to come up, and I'm going to drag you onto this show, kicking and screaming. So, we will go out today with a track here of yours called The World Outside. You want to tell us a little bit about this song before we say goodbye?
Yeah, it's just basically love one another. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. Love is the message. It's semi-political, but not really. Just love each other and let the world go to hell. You know, it doesn't matter what the world says. Be honest to yourself and to your heart.
Boom. I thought it was just fitting to play it because I'm locked in at the moment and just got extended for another 7 days. I've forgotten what the world outside looks like. But I'm sure once I'm released, I'll go outside and realize it's full of dicks. So nothing's really changed at the end of the day. Let me just cue up this song here, make sure we're all good. Professional stuff.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate you all.
So if you just want to hang on at the end of the show, just so we can catch up at the end, and I'll see you then. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. Love you all so much. And this is The World Outside by Tim Roberts. You've had Tim Roberts here today, being completely candid, honest, telling us all about his fantastic career with so much more to come. And I'll possibly see you all on the show tomorrow. So thank you very much, Tim. Thank you all for being here. And this is The World Outside.